G'day guys, it's Calvin from the Car Tune Company. You've got an engine, you've got an ECU, and you need to identify it for your 1UZ. I'm going to try and give you a bit of help, and I'm going to try to not confuse you, because this is a subject that, whilst there are guidelines, I could call them rules, but there is a saying that rules are made to be broken, and in this situation, rules are definitely meant to be broken. So at the Car Tune Company, we do 1UZ conversions and wiring. I started playing with them in 2004. So this is a little bit of the knowledge and the crap that's filling my head and churns around when I'm not sleeping. And we're going to attempt to get it out and into this video and confuse everybody else. So for this video, I've written out a very careful plan, and we're going to stick to this perfectly, as you can see. So there we have the plan for this upcoming video. That's the idea of what we're going to have. So if you've all got that, good. Let's get into it. In fact, if you follow the process and you look at how I look at it, and I use the resource Toyo DIY. It's a really good resource. It's not 100% accurate, but it's pretty good. I also have the Toyota New Zealand parts ordering system. So if I can get a number out of Toyo DIY for the model, I can then go through and double check. And this is a massive subject. So this is kind of like a guideline. I'm going to also go over, once I've gone over these ECUs, I've got most of the main looms that we see in stock. Now I see mainly JDM engines. I see a few US domestic market engines and a few from the UK. Over the years I've done quite a few of each, but I don't have them all sitting here in stock. I've seen a bit of a resurgence in the early ones. I'm going to start off and we're going to look at these different ECUs and we'll have a little bit of a chat, but please remember these are just sort of rough guidelines to kind of give you an idea of how they match and where they go. You must also remember that when I'm looking at an ECU or working on a job, there's a whole lot of experience that goes with it. So it's quite a complicated subject, but people who know use a basic set of guidelines and they'll be very similar to this. So let's have a look. Running through the ECUs. These are Crown ones, early Crown, separate ECT. This is early Celsius, this is early Sora, early Crown, the second generation, still UCF 10 Celsius. This is 20 series Celsius. Oh wait, no, that isn't. That's a Crown. Those are UCF 20 Celsius. So that's a Gen 2 engines. These are VVti's, and that's a 3UZ. So I hope that was helpful. No, just pulling your leg. Let's go through those a little bit more carefully. Because of course we forgot the Aristos and the GS400s. We got Crown. Working on Toyota ECUs, the first part of the part number is 89661, and that is for all Toyota ECUs, except I had a guy phone me the other day or contact me with a JZ ECU, and it didn't have that. I think it was 89666. Beside the point, let's start with all 1UZ engine ECUs are 89661. We've got that. I haven't seen that rule deviated from yet, but hey, it wouldn't surprise me. The next number is the model number. So we've got a 10-digit number. So digits number 6 and number 7 are the model. 50 is your most common. Well, I would call it the most common. That's your LS400 and your Celsius. You have your 24, and that is your Sora. That's pretty straightforward. And of course, if it's a JZ, it's still going to have a 24 as the first part of the model of that in that model code. Then we have the others. So that's your GS400, your aristos and your crowns. They are a 3A or a 3O. I don't care so much about the numbers. I mainly look at the body of the ECU, though the number is helpful. So let's go to the very first ECU. And if we poke this number into Toyo DIY, we will see that I'm talking about a crown. 131 crown. 89661. 30. So there's your crown. 430. I should also mention this last number is supersession. So 431, 432. That is the only 1UZ ECU that has a separate ECT, or electronically controlled transmission. So it's got a separate box. I happen to have one. It looks like this. 89530, so different control unit. 30, so that's your crown. 640. 1UZ FE 2616 ECT. So that just does transmission control. The plug configuration in a crown, as you can see here, we have a 26, we have a 16 and a 22 pin. We have this little sucker hanging off the side, and it has got 5 at the bottom and 3 at the top. It is missing. That, for those of you who need help with maths, that is 8. And there's one missing in the gap. So that is the really, really early crown ECU. It comes with the alloy body airflow meter, set of crown log headers, and I've done a whole video on the different engine differences. So I'm not going to go too much into that because I'll be here for a couple of hours. So that was the kind of the first ECU, and you'll see punching it into Toyo DIY brings up a crown 131. Next, we're going to move on to the next generation of ECU. Now, I commonly call this one 89 to 92, though it breaks the rules. Ugh. Having a look, it looks like this. Again, 89661, and this one is a 50102. We commonly see 100s, but they also like 090, 080, 070. Now the 042, 50042 is interesting because it's listed as later than the normal years, but it has the same configuration as this. So this one has a 26, 16, 22, and out to the side it has a 26, which is upside down compared to these. You'll see these ones have got your keys at the top. This one is upside down. It's a Gen 1 ECU. So the engine will have heavy rods, heavy pistons. Runs with an alloy body airflow meter. So what I normally see is your Celsius, and that one up to sort of late 92 is common. Remember, Toyota do break these rules. Oh, sorry, guidelines. Toyota break these guidelines. And the next in the Celsius LS400 range, we go on to this one here. This one, I've got 2 of them here for a reason. 89661, 50170, 50171. So that explosion shows the supersession of those. Really common in the LS400s is an 060. That's what we see a lot of into the New Zealand market. Also, common I see 080. So this one, probably interesting to note as well, if you watched my hydraulic fan videos, you'll notice I said, Celsius hydraulic fan, LS400 is a viscous fan. That changes the ECU. Also, if you've got EGR, that changes your ECU. So there's those differences, and that's the reasons we're seeing different ECUs in different models in different markets. There's a few different controls. However, with each series of ECU, the pinouts are similar. And I say similar, the main powers are in the same places, the main ignition outputs are in the same places, the main injectors are in the same places. So that stuff is all the same. It's those peripherals, fan outputs, hydraulic fan output control, EGR, those are the bits that make them different. Again, feeding it into Toyo DIY is helpful. If the number's gone, then you look at the ECU body itself, and you'll see this one. This one has a 34, a 22, a 16, and a 28. They are the same plugs as the next series. We'll get the next series. We'll just unplug this one. Come on. Got it. Same plug. Different, however, in the pinout to the next ones. And I'll... No, we'll look at this. Here is one of your differences. And you'll notice the gap on the edge of the ECU. Gap on the edge of the ECU. Would it be... Okay, well... yeah, we'll call that 3 fingers, shall we? It's more than a banana. 3 fingers, like that. I've only got little fingers. If we look over to this ECU, it's clearly a 2 finger. And this one, the header plug is well offset. And so that's a really easy way of distinguishing between these ECUs, which all have the same plug. There's another one, which is a Sora. It's a 1 finger. 2, 4. I'll get into the dimensions of the ECUs a little bit further. But the one we're working on at the moment is 1 high hundreds. 160, 170. It's probably the easiest, round about that number. That is a grouped injection, so like the early one, 4 injector drives. It runs the same alloy body airflow meter. Up, and it generally runs 92 to about the 9th month of 94. Again, just a guideline. At the same time of those ones, we had another set of ECUs, which was the Sora. Here we have Sora. So quite different in its configuration. This one is the 40-40-40. So it's 89661. There's just Sora 24, 220, and a 230. See, this one's all gone, the numbers are gone, but we can see it's a 40-40-40. And this one, the header plug is pretty much the whole size of the body. So early Sora, and I would like to say up to 94, but I know they completely break the guidelines on this one. 95, very common to see 95 Soras with still running this ECU. So the latest Sora has an ECU with a similar plug to the second lot of the UCF10 Celsius LS400. It's a 1 finger off the edge. It's got the 34, 22, 16, 28 pin. Very similar in pin out to that second ECU of the UCF10 range. And I probably should use that really well because UCF10 has those 2 versions of ECU. The Sora again runs alloy body airflow meter. And now it starts to get confusing again. Right, now we're going to move on to the crown. You'll see here, no numbers. And this is also very similar to an Aristo. So it's going to be 89661, crown, 3A or 3O. This is going to be a 3O, and it's going to be a 740. If it's an Aristo, it might be a 30860. Again, 40, 40, 40. But this one, it's probably 1.5 fingers. We'll get a 2 finger there. We'll get a 2 type fingers. Compared to the crown, you'll see it hangs out. Let's turn that over there. So there's the crown ECU above a Sora ECU. So much wider in the body. Similar pinouts. Now I say similar pinouts because early Sora that we see had a single oxygen sensor, and the crown had a 4-wire oxygen sensor. So there's a difference. They changed transmission. They put a temp sensor in the transmission. And they did that between the 2 UCF10 ECUs as well. And so that's why with transmissions, and I've got a video coming on transmissions, it's hard to link all this information together. So when we look at this ECU compared to that one, so the 2 rows of pins versus the 4 rows of pins, very similar change happened between the Sora and that Crown Majesta, Crown Aristo. This one is like the Sora. They ran a 6-pin solenoid plug on the trans. No temperature sensor in the trans. Oof. These ones both run temperature sensors in the trans. And that gives another clue that there's differences in the transes, but they're all the same. You can change that stuff around. If you've got that knowledge, you can mix and match parts, but if you don't, you can't. There's cold start injectors and no cold start injectors. So there's another difference if you want to run different ECUs, and of course they don't plug in. So if you are wanting to swap around ECUs, I recommend getting the same one as the motor that you're running. Get the right one, because it's a big stuff around trying to change and run different stuff. Other differences, we've got 2 different injectors in the 1UZ, so that needs to be matched. If you've looked at my video on airflow meters, we've got different airflow meters across the range. All the ECUs just there, so the 141 Crown Majesta, the Sora, the early ones with the 40, 40, 40, and the UCF10 and the Crown, they're all running on that early airflow meter. All of those engines, when they came out of the factory, have the left-hand coil, sitting from in the vehicle, left-hand coil, the tower's pointing up on all of them. I haven't seen that rule broken yet. So that might actually be a rule. They all have a big engine breather on them. On the tappet cover, they all have a big breather. So that is some quite distinctive features that go with those engines. And they've got the bigger of the rear water galleries. So it's a good way of seeing what engine you've got. And they all should have the big rods in them. And the big piston, the heavier, they should all have the heavier early internals in them. All being a Gen 1 engine. So that's the Gen 1 series. Now we're going to move on to the Gen 2s. And there is that little bit of a funny one, the late Sora. It has, 89661, 24430. It's the same as that Sora I did the plug and play on. Let's just confirm on that number, shall we? That Sora, now I've seen them in 97, have an 89661, 24430. It's a 1 finger over the edge of the header plug. It is this header plug here So 34, 22, 16, 28. One finger on the edge, and it's a tight one finger. Basically, there's enough room for the screw, and that's the end of the ECU. That is not one that I see a lot of, but it breaks the rules. Right, we're going to move on to the UCF20. Oh, no, we're going to use the Gen 2s. Gen 2 ECUs. Crown, LS400 Celsius. Really easy to tell them apart. The Crown, 89661, 3A080. 3A080. And I really like that ECU. That is one of my favorites. No hydraulic fan, so it's a viscous fan. It's small in its body. It's sequential injection. It uses that. Did I say UCF20 or did I say Gen 2? I hope I said Gen 2 because that one is a UZS 151 Crown. And I like that one. That's what I'm going to run in my own truck. I like it. It is compact. It is sequential injection. Now they continued on with that temperature sensor in the transmission from the second ECU that they use in the UCF10s. However, this one, the other reason I like it, and I also like it if I use it for just as an ECT, for just controlling the transmission, there's no kick-down switch required from the throttle pedal. And it only requires one speed sensor into the ECU. So you don't need that feedback loop through the dash back to the ECU. You're not going to get those codes. You only need the one. Fantastic little ECU. If you want to use the rear output shaft, and so because they changed and they only used the one speed sensor input, they blanked up the hole for the second one. So if you're running a vehicle that needs an external speedo drive or a cable speedo drive, then that's a great ECU because you're not going to stuff up your transmission operation. You can put the early model transmission rear housing on it with the two holes. You can use your front hole to run the ECU, and you use the back hole for your speedo drive, for your speedo, whether it's cable or electronic. And for you guys that have got really dirty minds, I'm talking about the holes in the transmission housing, okay? When I talk about the front hole and the back hole. I had this problem the other day. Moving on to the LS400 or the Celsius computer. This is the one with the really offset plug. And look at this. We have a grey header plug and we have a white one. Two different series. Pin out between this one and this one on the ECU. Again, very similar. 89661 50241. Really common to see a 251 on an LS400. And 50380. Same. Pin out. Different wiring looms. Yeah. They changed the wiring loom. What they did, and actually there's differences between an LS400 wiring loom and a Celsius wiring loom, which is pretty obvious because one had a viscous fan and one had a hydraulic fan, so they didn't run those. LS400 might have EGR, and they might have no EGR, but they might have a second breather for the fuel tank, PRG2 on the pinout. Not important. Well, it is important if you're trying to wire that, but for this, not really that critical. So this one here And these ones, sequential injection. So sequential injection, 8 injector drives. They run the hot wire airflow meter, that one. It's all one piece. This one is the same, sequential. Transmission interchanges between these ones. But very similar. And the looms are actually really, really close. But they just changed a few of the peripheral wires around just to annoy me, really. Keep me on my toes. These ones only need the one speed sensor from the transmission, so that's really cool. Later model, sequential injection. I like those ECUs. They're some of my favorites. I get it. I find them really easy to wire, and the looms are generally still in good order. Now we're going to just touch on VVti's. That's a whole nother video. And you'll see why in a minute. And we're just going to come back and look at a few more differences on the early ones. So VVti. This is a VVti computer. 89661, 50, 450, and there's a heap of numbers. 522, and there's one that doesn't even have the proper Toyota number in it. And there is a non-immobilized ECU, and it looks just like that. Same header, same white plugs, same offset with the 26 pin. The second series of VVti 1UZ 3A. So this Celsius, they had a crown, 151 crown, so we continued with the 151 crown into VVti. So the 151 crown in VVti's is 3A, 300, 310, 320. The Celsius LS400 into the VVti's, still UCF 20, 50, 450, 50, 522, 50, 520. A Nippon Denso computer with no Toyota number on it. VVti's have all got the same header plug. They didn't change them. The bodies are still the same. So if you've got no number on it, that's kind of bad. Fortunately, the main power wires are all in the same places, so you power them up. If you don't get a check light, you might have the wrong ECU. So, the 1UZ in the Celsius finished around about 2000. But they continued in the crown for a long time. You'll see here, same ECU, different pinouts, completely different. And that one's probably not in the healthiest condition. It's had a bit of a whack. 3A 590, very common. I really like that ECU as well. They go really well. And then UCF 30. Very different ECU again. Different plugs. Smaller pins. Very, very different. It's got this big join around it. Or big lip around it. Unscrew out of these 4 screws. And there's 2 models of that. They go into a 5-speed and a 6-speed. VVti's is a topic on its own. We're not going to go there today. We're going to stick with the non-VVti computers. As you can see, it's a whole subject on its own. And I could talk for an hour on that. We're not going to go there. Right, back into these. I'm going to line them all up together. Oh look, this one's shorter as well. There you go, I just learned something. But it doesn't really help you if you don't have it. One to sit next to. I could measure it, but we don't need to. So there is sequential group fire injection. 3 fingers, 2 fingers, whole hand. So they're actually quite easy to tell apart. Different pinout. Similar pinout. .141 crown. Sora. 40-40-40. Even though this one's an 80, we call it a 40-40-40. On many diagrams, that's actually an 80. Differences in looms. This one, the top one, the Sora, these are all in the engine loom. These two are together in the engine loom. This is separate in the body loom. Kind of doing its own thing, but not quite. Different pinout, same plugs, different pinouts, extra plug on the end. 131 crown, UCF 10, UZZ 30, 31, 32, 141 crown, UCF 10, UCF 10, UCF 11, 151 crown, UCF 20, UCF 21. UZS 151 crown or UCF 2021, VVti. UZS 170, 171, 175. So 170 series crown, VVti. 3UZ. Of course, there's a 5-speed and a 6-speed. These are 5-speed transmissions. 4-speed transmission with temp sensor. 4-speed transmission with a temp sensor. 4-speed transmission with a temp sensor. 4-speed transmission, no temp sensor. Single wire and oxygen sensor. 4-speed transmission, no temp sensor. 4-speed transmission, no temp sensor. Separate ECT. And the Sora one. Whew. Single finger on the edge of the header plug. 4-speed transmission with a temp sensor, grouped injection. Now, I'm always going to do a sales pitch. I have the wiring diagrams. They are my hieroglyphics and some of my own handwritten diagrams and pinouts and bits and pieces from 15 years of playing with these things and deciphering all this stuff. So it actually kind of works. This is a pretty big subject. As you can kind of tell, it's blowing my mind. If you use Toyo DIY properly, you can generally work your way around. I wire all of these. The number doesn't bother me so much anymore. I use the body size, I use that information, and I can also relate it to what engine we're running. Has it got a front sump? I'm going to do one on headers, on exhaust manifolds, so I've got all those as well. So I'll do that one. Well, I've got a good range of them. I'm going to attempt to do a few videos on different looms. There are of course loom differences because of viscous fan, hydraulic fan, and traction control, non-traction control. We've got two different injector sizes, main injector sizes in the non-VVti ECUs. So it is a bit of a minefield. And as I said, Toyota do use it as a guideline, and they mix and match a little bit. More so in the Gen 1s than the Gen 2s. They're a little bit more refined in the Gen 2s. As a lot of these engines now are no longer with their factory cars. They've come out, they've been wrecked, they've been imported, come from Japan. We're no longer seeing the factory tags we can't identify so easily. And that's why having some more of this knowledge is going to help. But it is a minefield, just be aware of that. If you apply it properly, you can generally work it out by also adding all the other parts that should be on that engine. Also be careful, different igniters. Yep, they changed there too. I see guys with different airflow meters. If the extra plug isn't off your engine, then it could be different. I don't care so much about wire colors in these because I have kind of worked out, and I can see it from experience, which wire to use or which pinout to use. So from that point of view, I no longer work on wire colors. There's a few other traps, like one of the late UCF 20s, which it was a American market and left-hand drive into Europe, had an immobilizer. And that's really cool because what they did there is swapped the trigger wires to the igniters. put an immobilizer in and swap the trigger wires. The idea was so you couldn't just go get a normal non-immobilized ECU and plug it in. But if you've got that info, then hey, that's really handy to have, and that's the easiest way to solve those problems. So one of my recommendations I'm going to make is try and get all the parts from one donor card. And that is the best way to know that, one, you've got a match set, and if you hear the donor car running, you know it does run. So over the years, I've seen a heap of stuff-ups on these, and some really good ones come to mind. High ace van, running lean, checked part numbers and listed all the part numbers, and got to the injectors and found that the ECU was meant to have, it had a 40-40-40, was meant to have the big injectors in it, and it had the small ones. So that one went heaps better with the right injectors. Another high ace van, it had a loom from a Crown, early 131 Crown, and it was running a UCF 10 ECU. And they'd managed to change most of the pins over, but the ones they didn't know, they just taped back into the loom. That was a few hours of my life sorting that, but it came up really good when I was finished. And the injectors matched. The injectors matched, the airflow meter matched. I've seen a few between the second ECU that was on the Gen 1s into and interchanged with the Gen 2. So same header plug, but of course one was sequential injection with 4 injector outputs and the other one had 8 injector outputs. And even worse, I've seen some of them running. They didn't run very well, but the people were clever enough to actually make it run by doing things that you just shouldn't do. And I'm surprised they did run, but they did. So guys, I hope that was kind of helpful and that you're not all completely confused. It's a fair bit going through my head right now, as you might have noticed, because this is a pretty massive topic. If you're looking for what ECU you're running, just remember that these are just guidelines. Proper searching, Toyo DIY is a big help. And please, please, please try to get the everything out of the one donor car, because it makes life much, much easier. As you can imagine, there's a heap more information that could ooze out of my head on the subject. But I'm going to probably call it a quits there. And we were going to come back and have a bit more of an individual look at each of these ECUs attached to a loom. I've got a fair few of the looms sort of hanging around, as you can see by my stockpile. This video certainly isn't long enough to get all the information on my New Z ECUs out of my head and down. It'd be like 10 hours long and you'd all go to sleep. But it's a start. We will expand on this topic as I go through each different ECU and each different loom. Yet another video straight off the top of my head. If only I could get a catalogue and chapterize my head and organize it. That's the plan. It's all coming out on videos. So I hope that was helpful, and we'll do it again. Catch you later.